Does Bronny James really deserve to be drafted in the NBA? So, Bronny James, the son of the basketball king LeBron James, is clocking in at a solid 6 foot 1.5 inches without shoes. Well, not quite reaching his dad's 6 foot 9 inch height, but hey, he can still see over most crowds at concerts. It seems like the height genes might have taken a little break this generation. I'd also like to know in the comments below your opinion on this topic. When it comes to his wingspan, Bronny James measures a 6 foot 7.25 inches. Okay, we know what you're thinking. LeBron's is 7 feet. Then there's the standing reach. Bronny, 8 feet 2.5 inches. LeBron, 8 feet 10.25 inches. Bronny's not quite there yet, but give the guy a break. He's still got room to grow, and that's what step stools are for, right? So while Bronny might not have inherited all of LeBron's physical dimensions, he's definitely got the genes for greatness. And let's be honest, being compared to one of the greatest basketball players of all time is no small feat. Let's talk about one thing Bronny did inherit from his dad. That bizarre subset of people who seem to have a hobby rooting for a teenager to fail. There must be better ways to spend your time, folks, like, I don't know, knitting or learning to play the ukulele. LeBron himself knows this song and dance all too well. Everybody wanted to see him fail when he got into the league. If there was a championship for being scrutinized,
everybody wanted to see me fail when I got to the league. Everybody was just like, it's no way he's going to be able to exceed, the expectations that's put upon.
LeBron would have more rings than he does already. The unfortunate reality is that this negativity has now spewed onto Bronny, who's guilty of nothing more than the act of being born in a basketball dynasty. By all accounts, Bronny has high character, and given the microscope he's lived under, any slip up on his part would be magnified to an extent that would make the Hubble telescope jealous. Rising to become a high school star, college athlete, and now an NBA prospect isn't a feat you accomplish on genetics alone, especially when you're not towering at your dad's height. The haters will point out all the perks Bronny's received, like top-tier training, nutrition, and networking opportunities courtesy of a multi-millionaire family. Yes, those perks help, but last I checked, they don't dribble the ball for you. The truth is, Bronny has worked harder at basketball than most people will work at anything in their entire lives. And let's not forget, he's survived a cardiac arrest incident. That's more resilience in one episode than many will show in a lifetime, and probably slowed down his numbers for his first year of college. So, yet rather than praising his work ethic and his incredible recovery, some folks dismiss him, focusing on his dad and insisting that he's only getting these opportunities because of LeBron. But let's give credit where credit is due. Bronny's making his own mark, and it's about time we cheer for his journey, not just his lineage. So let's give the fella a chance. So if we look at the numbers, he averaged 4.8 points on 36.6% shooting. He's not exactly lighting up the scoreboard, but let's put those stats aside for a moment. According to draft experts, the kid is a real NBA prospect, and he'd still have a solid chance of making it into the league even if his last name were Smith. Bronny doesn't have his dad's measurements, but here's some hard-hitting analysis for you. Very few NBA players do. LeBron is a unicorn among unicorns. He's probably one of the best athletes the NBA has ever seen. Plus, he plays a completely different position than his son. So we can't compare these two players. Bronny's combine results, however, put him very much in the caliber of an NBA guard. His height and wingspan are comparable to some notable names like Derrick Rose, Jeff Teague, Dennis Schroeder, and Damian Lillard. So let's break down how he stacks up against the first-round guard prospects in this draft. Stephon Castle stands at 6'5.5" with a 6'9" wingspan. Rob Dillingham is 6'1" with a 6'3" wingspan. Reed Shepard, 6'1" with a 6'3.25" wingspan. Bronny James, 6'1.5" with a 6'7" wingspan. So Bronny's wingspan is actually pretty impressive and fits right in with NBA standards for guards. Along with his NBA frame, Bronny also showed out in the first day's drills. His 40.5-inch vertical was the 4th highest among all prospects. Yeah, you heard that right. He can jump out of the gym. His lane agility was top-notch, and his shooting was among the best of the day. So while there are haters out there that might focus on his last name and his freshman stats, the reality is Bronny James has the talent, the work ethic, and the physical tools to make his own name in the NBA. Bronny James looked much more like his high school self with a bit more time to recover from what will likely be the most traumatic event of his life. I mean, it hasn't even been a year since his heart decided to take an unscheduled break, yet here he is, outperforming some of the best young athletes in the world in these drills. Talk about your comeback kid. So before that incident, Bronny was known as an excellent defender, a high field guard, and a solid shooter, with many thinking he's a mid-first round pick based on talent alone. But then the narrative got all twisted, partly because of the idea that LeBron might pull a dad move and join whatever team picks him. The idea that a player with a first-round grade deserves to be taken somewhere at the end of the second round after a rough freshman season should not have this many people up in arms about entitlement. Just look at his measurements, his athleticism, and his skill. Bronny is worth a flyer in the draft. Remember guards like Kyle Lowry, Donovan Mitchell, Chris Middleton, and Russell Westbrook. They all had their freshman struggles, but went on to have amazing NBA careers. And none of them had to overcome a life-threatening health scare while doing it. So imagine if they had to deal with that, their freshman stats would probably be even worse. And let's not forget, Bronny's shown a maturity far beyond his haters, which is probably the most important gift his father has ever given him. Despite the scrutiny and criticism, he keeps his head down and works hard, proving his worth on the court. Bronny's got the talent and the mindset to succeed at the highest level, and he's handling the pressure better than most adults handle a Monday morning. Bronny James has declared for the NBA draft while entering the transfer portal, setting himself up with the multiple options for the next step in his basketball journey. It's basically like having a backup plan for your backup plan. So smart moves all around, very strategic. He could go through the pre-draft process and return to college armed with an evaluation from NBA personnel folks. Think of it like a report card from the pros, giving him the lowdown on where he stands and what to improve. Or he might decide that after one season at USC, he's ready to turn pro and dive into the big leagues. Okay, if you only look at his stats, sure, 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists per game, it might seem a bit early to make the leap. But let's not forget, just a year ago, he was named as a McDonald's All-American, an honor that's about as easy to get as a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's factory. There are still plenty of Bronny James fans among scouts who see his potential beyond the numbers. So while his current averages might not scream NBA star, the scouts are seeing something more. They're looking at his high school prowess, his impressive recovery, and his untapped potential. Bronny's got options, and whether he chooses to stay in college or jump into the NBA, it's clear he's got a bright future ahead of him. 3 NBA executives and scouts specializing in college evaluations recently shared their thoughts on Bronny James' prospects as an NBA player, and what they said may surprise you. The executives and scouts were granted anonymity to ensure their evaluations remained confidential and protected their team's interest. So first up, the elephant in the room. Inevitably, when talking about Bronny, the conversation often shifts to his dad, LeBron, and what drafting the 19-year-old could mean for an organization. One Western Conference scout didn't hold back, saying it's a bad draft and teams might think they can lure LeBron. So owners might take the chance in the second round because it will make them tons of money financially and they'll sell out arenas. So it's hard to argue with the economics on that logic. A LeBron appearance is a guaranteed box office smash, while other executives, however, believe the LeBron connection to be a bit overblown. While LeBron can opt out of his contract with the Lakers this summer and become an unrestricted free agent, he'd be leaving more than $51 million on the table. That's a hefty chunk of change even for someone with his earnings. As recently as last postseason, LeBron clarified that his dream of playing with Bronny in the NBA won't override what's best for his son's growth as a player. In short, while the possibility of drafting Bronny might come with dreams of LeBron tagging along, it's clear from both LeBron and some within the league that Bronny's journey will be his own. If his name wasn't Bronny James, I thought he's a late second rounder who is a draftable two-way contract, said one Western Conference exec. So going into the G League may be where Bronny ends up, just to sharpen his IQ, get his strength back, build on his skills. So how does a player who averaged only 4.8 points manage to be considered a real draft prospect? Well, it's all about strengths and what NBA teams value according to these insiders. The things he does well could help really good teams. So his strengths include good athleticism in transition, a sharp basketball IQ, solid character, and a knack for on-ball defense. Another Western Conference exec chimed in, describing Bronny as having an NBA body and being a solid athlete. Add to that his smart play and potential as a perimeter shooter, and you start to see why he's on people's radars. Sure, Bronny's three-point shooting at USC wasn't exactly Curry-esque at 26.7%, but considering he started late after recovering from cardiac arrest last July, and how he's steadily improved since high school, there's optimism in that department. There are concerns remaining about Bronny's size and athleticism type. One executive labeled him as a small shooting guard, estimating he'd measure around 6'2" at the draft combine. In summary, James might carry a famous name, but NBA execs are focusing on his game, and it's a balancing act between potential and performance, and only time will tell where he lands on the draft and how he shapes his own basketball story. So what's the verdict on Bronny James? According to the evaluators, he's likely to hear his name called somewhere in the middle of the second round and have a real shot at developing into a contributing player in the NBA. A lot of scouts believe he could be targeted for a two-way contract, which would give him the chance to hone his skills in the G League. One executive tempered expectations, slightly saying Bronny is not likely to turn a program around or franchise on his own. However, his skills complement other high-level players well, making him a potentially valuable asset on the right team. Bronny's reputation precedes him as a hard worker with a team-first mentality and no ego or attitude issues, though some wouldn't mind seeing him a bit more aggressive. While his stats might not jump off the page, there's a consensus among evaluators that he is a draftable prospect with room to grow and contribute in the NBA. At the end of the day, Bronny James isn't just writing on his famous name. He's carving out his own path, and with the right opportunity and development, he could make his mark in professional basketball. So we'd love to hear from you about how you think Bronny James deserves or does not deserve to be drafted in the NBA. Thank you for watching.